My fiancé laughed in my face, his voice sharp enough to slice me open. You really thought a trashy cabin in Alaska would make you worth something? Pathetic loser. He grabbed his coat, slammed the door and left me standing there, shaking like the floor itself had collapsed under my feet. Hi everyone. My name is Alara Quinn, I'm 27 years old. And if you think family can't stab you in the back deeper than strangers, you're about to see how wrong that is. When my father passed, the will split like a cruel joke. My older brother, his golden child, got an $800,000 mansion in New York, wrapped in marble floors and city lights. I was left with a rotting log cabin in the middle of Alaska, surrounded by endless trees and silence. A cabin people whispered about as if it carried shame in its walls. At first I tried to mask my humiliation. My fiancé told me we'd make it work, but I could already see the pity in his eyes. And the day the lawyer slid the paper across the desk, he stopped pretending. This is your legacy? A pile of wood in the snow? You'll never rise above this. He spat before leaving me crushed in the sterile office. But heartbreak does strange things. Sometimes it pushes you toward cliffs, and sometimes it makes you strong enough to jump without looking back. So I booked the flight. Just me, a duffel bag and a broken heart that beat louder with every mile north. The Alaskan air was knife cold, the kind that scrapes your lungs raw. By the time I trudged through the snow and reached the sagging cabin, every part of me felt numb. I pushed open the door, bracing for the smell of rot, of dust, of wasted inheritance. But what I found instead made my knees buckle. On the floor, under cracked planks and a hidden lock, was something that pulsed with a different kind of power, something worth $60 million. And for the first time in years I smiled. Because maybe my father hadn't betrayed me after all. Maybe he left me the key to everything. The trapdoor groaned under my hands, its iron latch frozen in place like it hadn't been touched in decades. My breath fogged the stale air as I pried it open, splinters biting my palms. Beneath the warped wood was a narrow staircase, carved into the earth, dark and sloping like the throat of some ancient beast waiting to swallow me whole. My pulse thundered in my ears. For a moment I thought about calling someone, my brother, the lawyer, anyone. But then I remembered their smirks, their laughter, the way my fiancé had walked out calling me worthless. Oh, this was mine. Whatever it was, this was mine. I gripped the railing and descended. The deeper I went, the sharper the air smelled, metal, oil and something faintly sweet like old cedar. At the bottom, a single bulb flickered to life when I tugged a chain. The light revealed a room that shouldn't have existed. Crates stacked to the ceiling. Dusty, sealed, marked with numbers. My fingers traced the stenciled paint. 1954. 1961. 1977. Decades of secrets hidden beneath my trash inheritance. I cracked one open with a rusted crowbar leaning against the wall, the lid screaming as nails gave way. Inside, gold bars gleamed against the dim light, their weight pulling my arms down, their shine cutting through years of dust. My chest tightened. I counted, my lips trembling, whispering each digit like a prayer. 1, 2, 3, 4, until the numbers turned meaningless. Each crate held more. More gold than I had ever seen. More than I could imagine. I staggered back, knees buckling, laughing and choking on tears at the same time. $60 million, at least. Maybe more. My father hadn't left me trash. He had left me a secret empire. But as my laughter echoed in the underground room, it bounced back wrong. Too loud. Too sharp. I froze. Because in the far corner of the cellar, hidden in shadows, was something I hadn't noticed at first. Second door. Heavy. Steel. With a lock that looked recently used. And in that silence I realized I wasn't the only one who knew about this place. My breath hitched as I stared at the steel door. It didn't belong here. The rest of the cellar felt old, forgotten. Dust thick on every surface, the crates untouched for decades. But the door, it was different. Clean edges. Scratches around the lock. A faint, oily fingerprint smeared across the handle. Someone had been here recently. My heart pounded, but my hand moved anyway, reaching for the cold metal. The lock was heavy, industrial, not something you'd find at a hardware store. I tugged, rattled it, but it held firm. I leaned closer, pressing my ear to the steel, and for a moment, I swore I heard it. Breathing. A slow, steady exhale, muffled but undeniably human. I shot back, stumbling into a crate, the gold clattering as if mocking me. My father hadn't just left me treasure. He'd left me a secret big enough to bury. I backed up the stairs, my hands trembling, mind racing. Should I call the police? My brother? No, if I called him he'd swoop in, claim it all, and I'd be written off as unstable again. The police? They'd confiscate everything. This inheritance would slip through my fingers. I sat at the top step, staring down into the cellar, the bulb flickering like it could go out at any second. My father had been deliberate. He gave my brother the mansion, a cage of stone and glass. But he gave me this. A secret wrapped in danger, coated in silence. I pulled out my phone, opening the flashlight, and crept back down. The steel door loomed, daring me. My hands shook, but I pressed the light against the edges, scanning the grooves. My father had left me clues before, hidden notes, odd sayings. Maybe the key was here. Maybe it was meant for me, not for whoever else had touched that handle. But as the beam cut across the concrete floor, I froze again. Scratched into the cement right in front of the door were words carved by hand. Not yours. Leave it. And the fresh drag marks leading away told me someone hadn't obeyed. The words on the floor burned into me like fire. Not yours. Leave it. I couldn't breathe. My phone's light trembled in my hand, bouncing shadows across the crates of gold, across the lock, across the warning. Whoever carved it had been desperate, maybe even terrified. But the worst part? The drag marks. Long grooves etched into the concrete as if something heavy, or someone, had been pulled from behind that steel door and taken away. Recently. I staggered back, whispering to myself, "What did you do, Dad? What the hell did you leave me with?" For a moment I thought about turning around, climbing those stairs, walking out into the snow, catching the first flight back, leaving this nightmare buried under ice where it belonged. But then I remembered my brother's smirk when he got his mansion. My fiancé's words, dripping with venom, "Pathetic loser." Oh, this cabin was mine. This secret was mine. And if there was danger in that room, I had to face it before someone else did. I searched the shelves, tossing aside old jars, cans, a toolbox rusted with time. My fingers closed around something small, taped beneath a beam, a brass key. My pulse quickened. My father's style. Always hiding things in plain sight. Always testing if I was willing to look deeper. I crept to the door, slid the key into the lock, and turned. The mechanism groaned, metal grinding on metal. Then a click. The sound was too loud. It echoed in the small space like a gunshot. I froze, listening. And that's when I heard it, not breathing this time. Movement. A slow shuffle like boots scraping against concrete. My body went rigid, fear crawling up my spine. I gripped the handle, every part of me screaming to run. And then from the other side of the door, a voice rasped through the steel, raw and broken. "You shouldn't be here." The voice crawled through the steel, rough and hollow, like it hadn't touched daylight in years. My hand slipped from the handle, heart hammering so hard I thought my ribs might split. "Who's there?" My voice cracked, swallowed by the cold concrete walls. For a long stretch of silence, nothing. Just the drip of water somewhere deep in the cellar. Then again, softer, more deliberate. "It shouldn't be here." The bulb above me flickered, buzzing as if it wanted to die. I clutched my phone light tighter, casting it over the crates of gold. The treasure that had made me laugh, cry, shake only an hour ago now felt like bait. A distraction. Something my father left to lure me here. I pressed my ear against the steel. My breath fogged against the cold metal. The sound on the other side was clearer now. The faint scrape of chains, the ragged inhale of lungs that struggled for air. Whoever was in there, they weren't free. I whispered almost to myself, "Dad, what the hell did you do?" I fumbled the key again, my hands trembling so violently it slipped from my grip and clattered to the floor. The sound echoed like a bell in a cathedral. My chest tightened, panic clawing at me. That's when the voice shifted. Not a whisper anymore, but a low growl that made my skin crawl. "Open it. Or it opens for you." I stumbled back, every instinct screaming run. But the cabin above me was silent, empty, endless miles from the nearest neighbor. If I ran now, I'd spend every night of my life wondering who, or what, I had left locked beneath my inheritance. I forced myself forward, picking up the key, shoving it back into the lock. It turned smoother this time, like it wanted to. The steel door hissed as it cracked open an inch. The smell hit me first, iron and rot thick enough to gag me. I yanked my sweater up over my mouth, squinting into the dark. And that's when a hand shot through the gap. Thin, shackled at the wrist. Nails broken, skin torn raw. It grabbed the frame, pulling forward with desperate strength. Then a face appeared in the sliver of light. Hollow cheeks, wild eyes that burned with something between fury and salvation. And in that shaking, rasping voice they said my father's name. The sound of my father's name in that rasping voice tore through me harder than any blade could. My body went cold like the Alaskan ice had seeped into my bones. I staggered back, shaking my head. No. Oh, you don't know him. He's dead. The figure pressed closer, forcing the door wider, the chain clinking against their wrist. The dim light painted their face in fragments. Skin paper-thin, lips cracked, but the eyes. Those eyes were alive. Burning. Knowing. He locked me here, the prisoner whispered. Your father promised the world, then buried me under it. I clutched the doorframe, nails digging into the wood. My father, the man who taught me to ride a bike, who tucked notes into my school lunches, who always said, "One day you'll understand why I do things the way I do," had done this? The prisoner coughed, a wet, rattling sound. Gold, yes. That's what he told them. That's what they wanted. But there was more. Always more. Their eyes darted to the crates stacked behind me. Do you even know what's in all of them? My chest tightened. I thought of the shimmering bars I had touched, their impossible weight. Gold, I said, but even to my own ears it sounded like a lie. The prisoner gave a twisted smile, half madness, half pity. Not just gold. Not just money. Power. Secrets buried with me. And now you've opened the door. A low creak above made me freeze. The floorboards groaned as if someone else had stepped into the cabin. My blood ran cold. The prisoner's eyes sharpened, panicked. They followed you, didn't they? Your brother. He's here. I spun toward the stairs, my phone light cutting through the dust. A shadow moved across the crack beneath the cabin door. My inheritance wasn't a cabin. It wasn't gold. It wasn't even freedom. It was a war. And tonight it had finally begun. The footsteps above were deliberate, heavy, too measured to be the wind. My stomach dropped. My brother. Of course. He had always sniffed out advantage, arriving only when someone else had done the dirty work. The prisoner's eyes bored into mine, frantic. Chains clinked as they tugged against their shackle. Don't let him take it. Don't let him take me. I pressed the steel door shut, the lock snapping back into place. Not out of cruelty but strategy. I needed time to think. If my brother saw this prisoner before I understood what they meant, everything would spiral out of my control. I darted up the stairs, my heart in my throat, the bulb flickering behind me. The cabin door creaked open, letting in a sliver of moonlight and the outline of his frame. My brother stepped inside like he owned the place. Polished boots sinking into the warped boards, his city coat too clean, too smug for this frozen wilderness. Little sister, he drawled, surveying the room. So this is what Dad left you. Fits, doesn't it? Broken, forgotten, worthless. I tightened my grip on my phone, fighting to keep my voice steady. You shouldn't be here. He smirked, shutting the door behind him. The lock clicked like a gun cocking. On the contrary. I should. Because whatever you think is yours, whatever pathetic scrap Dad threw you, it was always meant to be mine. You just played guard dog. My chest burned. He knew. His eyes flicked to the trapdoor, the faint dust still unsettled. You opened it, didn't you? He whispered, excitement crackling in his tone. Tell me. Was it gold? Diamonds? What did the old man bury here? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the truth wasn't something he'd ever be allowed to touch. He stepped closer, voice low and venomous. You can hand it over willingly, Alara. Or I'll take it. Just like I always have. For a long beat, silence stretched between us. Snow tapped against the window. My breath clouded the air. Then I smiled, slow, sharp, unflinching. Not this time. And from beneath the floorboards, as if echoing my defiance, the prisoner's voice rose again, hoarse and furious. Not yours. His face twitched when the voice crawled up from beneath us. That smug, polished mask cracked for the first time in years. He spun toward the trapdoor, eyes wide, veins pulsing in his neck. What was that? He demanded. I let the silence hang, savoring it. The truth finally speaking. He lunged for the cellar door, but I stepped in front, planting myself there like roots in frozen earth. He shoved me hard, but I didn't budge. Not anymore. All my life I'd been the disposable sibling, the shadow he stepped over. But tonight I wasn't moving. You don't understand what you're touching, I said, voice low, steady. This isn't yours. It never was. His laugh was sharp, manic. You think Dad left you a pile of gold to play hero with? He left me the mansion, the power, the name. You're a placeholder. A mistake. The words should have gutted me. Dad, I smiled. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, screen glowing with the app already recording. His face paled when he realized. His venom, his confession. Every word was captured. Funny, I whispered, how the world loves watching men like you choke on their greed. I stepped aside. He ripped the trapdoor open and stormed down, blinded by hunger for what he thought belonged to him. The moment his boots hit the concrete, the prisoner's chains rattled, their voice booming in that hollow space. Not yours. The bulb flickered violently, shadows slicing the walls. My brother screamed, not in pain but in rage, as if the very air defied him. I closed the door, slid the heavy bar across it, and for the first time in my life I was the one shutting him out. I walked outside into the night, the cabin glowing faintly behind me. The snow fell soft and steady, wrapping the world in silence. My phone buzzed in my hand, the recording safely uploaded, evidence tied to his voice, his words, his greed. The mansion, the power, the legacy, all his illusions. But this cabin, this secret, this truth, was mine. My father hadn't cursed me. He had armed me. As dawn bled over the Alaskan horizon, I breathed in the sharp, clean air. For the first time I wasn't a shadow. I wasn't discarded. I was chosen. And the war my brother tried to start? It ended the moment I closed that door.